Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. Arthur stood in the heart of the Temporal Defense Agency, staring at the sleek, shimmering machine before him. Its glowing surface pulsed faintly, almost as if it was alive, aware of the importance of what lay ahead. The time travel device was a marvel of human ingenuity, capable of bending the very fabric of time, yet Arthur knew that with great power came great danger. The Zarn had exploited this discovery, twisting pivotal moments in history to suit their dark agenda. Now, it was up to him to fix it all. "Remember," the head of the TDA, Director Quill, said, her voice laced with urgency. "Every jump you make, every intervention, has to be precise. The Zarn will try to sabotage you at every turn." Arthur nodded, slipping the shimmering device onto his wrist. "I'll get it done." The faint hum of the machine vibrated beneath his skin as he stepped into the central chamber. Time twisted, the world around him dissolving into an ethereal blur. When the haze cleared, Arthur found himself standing in the heart of ancient Rome. The sun beat down on the bustling city, where citizens moved about in togas, the sounds of trade filling the air. Arthur adjusted his tunic, blending seamlessly into the crowd. His mission was clear: prevent the Zarn from altering the course of Roman history by manipulating the assassination of Julius Caesar. If they succeeded, the Roman Empire would never rise, and human progress would stall for centuries. Arthur's keen eyes scanned the crowd, searching for any signs of the Zarn. They were masters of disguise, often blending in with their surroundings. As he approached the Senate House, he noticed two men in conversation, their gestures sharp and their demeanor tense. They looked human, but Arthur's instincts told him otherwise. He edged closer, eavesdropping on their conversation. "Tonight," one of them whispered, his voice barely audible. "Caesar must fall, but the chaos that follows will ensure Rome never recovers." Arthur felt his pulse quicken. This was the moment. He trailed the two figures, watching as they slipped into the shadows of the Senate House. The plan was clear: they intended to sabotage the assassination, not by preventing it, but by ensuring that the ensuing civil wars tore the empire apart beyond repair. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Arthur followed the pair to a secluded meeting. Inside, a group of Zarn agents, disguised as Roman officials, laid out their strategy. Arthur, his heart pounding, knew he had to act quickly. The weight of history pressed on him, but he'd been trained for this. With careful precision, Arthur orchestrated his countermove. Disguising himself as one of the conspirators, he managed to sow discord within the group, planting seeds of doubt about their plan. When the time came for the final act, the Zarn's influence faltered. Caesar was assassinated as history intended, but the chaos that could have destroyed the empire was averted. As Augustus rose to power, Arthur slipped away into the night, his mission in Rome complete. He activated his wrist device, the world around him dissolving once again. When Arthur re-emerged, he found himself in 16th century Italy, a place of vibrant art, science, and invention. The Renaissance was in full swing, but the Zarn's presence here was just as dangerous. Their goal was clear: stop Leonardo da Vinci from advancing his groundbreaking work. Without da Vinci's genius, the Renaissance would lose its spark, and humanity's future innovations would be stunted. Arthur knew he had to approach this mission differently. Da Vinci was a recluse, guarded in his thoughts and wary of strangers. If Arthur was to protect him from the Zarn, he'd need to earn the man's trust. Disguised as a fellow scholar, Arthur spent days in the bustling streets of Florence, slowly integrating himself into da Vinci's circle of intellectuals. He marveled at the artist's sketches, his machines, and his far-reaching ideas about flight, warfare, and the nature of the human body. Arthur felt a deep respect for the man, understanding just how critical his contributions were to human progress, but the Czarn were not far behind. They had embedded themselves within Florence's political elite, whispering in the ears of influential figures, convincing them that Da Vinci's ideas were dangerous, heretical even. The Czarn planned to destroy Da Vinci's workshop and scatter his work to the winds, ensuring that the Renaissance never reached its full potential. Arthur's task was clear. He had to protect Da Vinci and his work at all costs. One night, as the Czarn agents prepared to strike, Arthur confronted them in the heart of Florence. In a tense standoff in the shadow of the Palazzo Vecchio, Arthur revealed their true nature to the local authorities, planting just enough doubt to derail their plans. The Czarn, exposed and unable to execute their sabotage, fled. The Renaissance continued to flourish, Da Vinci's work inspiring generations of inventors and thinkers. Once again, history was preserved, and Arthur vanished from Florence, his mission complete. The next jump was harder. The cold, industrial landscape of 18th-century England greeted him. The air was thick with coal smoke, and the sound of machinery filled the streets. This was the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and the Czarn sought to prevent it by targeting James Watt, the man who perfected the steam engine. Without this invention, the industrial progress that would eventually lead humanity to space travel would be delayed by centuries. Arthur found Watt in his cluttered workshop, toiling away on a prototype of the steam engine. The Czarn were here, too, hidden among factory workers, spreading rumors and inciting sabotage. Arthur had to tread carefully. One wrong move and Watt's workshop could be destroyed, setting back human progress indefinitely. Posing as a laborer, Arthur infiltrated the factory where the Czarn operatives were organizing. Their plan was to destroy Watt's designs and ruin his reputation, ensuring that the steam engine never saw the light of day. Arthur worked quietly, dismantling their operation piece by piece. He sabotaged their sabotage, ensuring that every attempt to derail Watt's work ended in failure. In a dramatic confrontation inside Watt's workshop, Arthur exposed the Czarn agents as traitors. Watt, though shaken, continued his work, and the steam engine was completed on schedule. The Industrial Revolution proceeded, propelling humanity into a new era of technological advancement. Arthur's body ached from the constant time jumps, but there was no time to rest. The final mission awaited, one that could change the fate of all humanity. He found himself in the tension-filled world of the Cold War, a time where the threat of nuclear annihilation hung over every decision. The Czarn had infiltrated the highest levels of government, manipulating leaders on both sides of the Iron Curtain. Their goal was simple: provoke a nuclear war that would wipe out human civilization, leaving the planet ripe for alien conquest. Arthur had never faced stakes this high. The slightest misstep could lead to global catastrophe. He embedded himself within the corridors of power, navigating the paranoia and secrecy that defined this era. His mission was clear: identify the Czarn agents and prevent them from triggering a nuclear conflict. As the world teetered on the brink of destruction, Arthur uncovered a plot to launch missiles from a hidden silo deep in the Arctic. The Czarn had taken control of the facility, and only Arthur could stop them. In a tense showdown within the icy bunker, Arthur fought off the Czarn agents, racing against time to prevent the launch. The countdown had begun. With mere seconds to spare, Arthur disabled the launch system, averting a nuclear war and saving humanity from annihilation. Exhausted but victorious, Arthur returned to the present. The world had changed. History, shaped by his interventions, had made humanity stronger, more resilient. The civilizations of Earth had advanced faster, wars were shorter, and cooperation between nations had grown. As Arthur stood in the Temporal Defense Agency once more, he reflected on the weight of what he had accomplished. His journey had taken him across time itself, battling an alien force determined to break the spirit of humanity. But through every challenge, Arthur had seen the resilience of the human race, its capacity for growth and survival. "History is safe," Director Quill said, standing beside him. "For now." Arthur nodded, knowing that time itself was fragile, always at risk of being torn apart by those who sought to manipulate it. But as long as he was there to guard it, history would remain intact, and so, the temporal guardian stood ready, prepared for whatever the future, or the past, might throw at him next. Arthur stood in silence, letting the weight of his recent mission settle into the depths of his mind. The glow of the Temporal Defense Agency's facility was always sterile, the low hum of machines a constant reminder that time itself could be manipulated, twisted, reshaped. But it was also fragile, and Arthur had felt its fragility in every breath of his journey. There was no time for reflection, not yet. The world continued moving forward, and the delicate balance of history required constant vigilance. Director Quill's words, though meant as a reassurance, were more of a warning. History was safe, for now. But what about tomorrow? The future? The past could always unravel if the Zarn sought another angle, another weakness to exploit. He made his way through the halls of the agency, the crisp click of his boots echoing against the metal floors. His body still ached from the constant shifts in time, the strain of existing simultaneously in multiple realities. Yet, it was the mental fatigue that weighed on him most. Every decision he had made, every subtle nudge to history, felt like a precarious balance between doing too much and not enough. He had always wondered, as he watched these pivotal moments unfold, how much of history was fragile, and how much was inevitable. The time machine, the sleek wrist device still attached to his arm, buzzed lightly, reminding him of its presence. It never let him forget its power, nor the responsibilities it carried. There were other agents who could be activated at a moment's notice, but Arthur was the one the agency trusted with the most critical missions. He had seen more of time than anyone else. He had touched the past, lived it, molded it. And every time, he had returned, but not without leaving a piece of himself behind. He reached the debriefing room. Inside, a large holographic screen hovered, displaying the moments he had altered: Caesar's rise to power, the flourishing of the Renaissance, the triumph of the steam engine, and the salvation of humanity from nuclear annihilation. These events, critical to human development, now carried the fingerprints of his interventions. Director Quill sat at the head of the table, her expression neutral but observant. "You've done well, Arthur," she said, her voice even. "The timeline is stable." "For now," he responded, his voice quieter than intended. She nodded, her eyes scanning the holographic representations of history. "We know the Zarn won't stop. They'll keep trying to weaken us. But you've given humanity something valuable. Strength, unity, resilience. With each intervention, we've become stronger." Arthur couldn't deny the truth in her words. Every time he returned from a mission, the world seemed just a bit brighter, more advanced, more unified. The Zarn's influence was subtle, but devastating if left unchecked. Yet, every failure of theirs strengthened the human spirit in ways they couldn't have anticipated. But what gnawed at Arthur was the question of his own role. How many more times would he need to step in? How many more pivotal moments would demand his intervention? Would there ever come a point when history no longer needed him? Quill must have sensed his thoughts. "You're not alone in this, Arthur," she said softly, her sternness giving way to a rare moment of warmth. "You carry a burden, yes. But we're all fighting for the same cause." He wanted to believe her. But the memories of the past, the lives he had touched and left behind, lingered in his mind. The people he had met in every era, they were real, their emotions, their struggles, their victories. And yet, to them, he was just a fleeting moment, a shadow in their lives, forgotten the second history reset itself. For Arthur, the weight of those memories remained, never fading, only growing heavier with each mission that he stood, the fatigue settling deep into his bones. What's next? Quill raised an eyebrow, clearly aware of his exhaustion but choosing not to address it. We've detected another anomaly, she said, swiping a hand across the holographic screen. It shifted to display a new timeline, faint but significant. It's in the distant future this time. A colony on Mars. Arthur leaned forward, his interest piqued. The Martian colonies were one of humanity's crowning achievements, an expansion beyond Earth that had always been a symbol of hope and ingenuity. If the Zarn were targeting the colonies, it could spell disaster for Earth's future. The Zarn have infiltrated the leadership there, Quill continued. They're attempting to manipulate the governing body to make critical decisions that would lead to the collapse of the colony, setting humanity's interstellar ambitions back by centuries. Arthur nodded, already feeling the familiar stirrings of duty rising within him. When do I leave? The temporal window is opening in a few minutes, Quill said, her tone now brisk and professional. This one's delicate, Arthur. The future is more unpredictable than the past. You can't rely on what you know. We have less information, fewer historical records to guide you. I'll manage, he said with a determined edge. Quill offered him a small smile. I know you will. Good luck. Arthur turned and left the room, heading toward the temporal chamber once again. He could feel the anticipation building in his chest, the familiar adrenaline of stepping into the unknown. The future, an uncharted territory. He'd spent so much time in the past, anchoring humanity's achievements, but the future was a whole new frontier. His steps quickened, the urgency of the mission pushing him forward. Once inside the chamber, he activated the wrist device. The sensation of time bending around him felt more disorienting this time, as if the future resisted his presence. The bright lights of the Temporal Defense Agency faded, and when the world around him came into focus, Arthur found himself standing on the red, dust-laden surface of Mars. The Martian colony sprawled out before him, a gleaming hub of human ingenuity amidst the desolate landscape. Transparent domes housed the main living quarters, while massive solar panels and greenhouses stretched out in the distance, soaking in the sunlight to provide energy and sustenance for the colonists. It was a testament to human persistence, a new frontier that had been conquered against all odds. Arthur adjusted the filters on his breathing apparatus and began walking toward the central dome. The Zarn would be here, somewhere deep within the colony's leadership, influencing decisions that could cripple this vital outpost. He had to find them, root them out, and ensure the colony's survival. Inside the central dome, the atmosphere was a sharp contrast to the harsh environment outside. Clean, well-lit corridors stretched in every direction, and colonists moved with purpose, focused on their work. Arthur had already memorized the key figures in the colony's administration: scientists, engineers, and political leaders. Any one of them could be compromised by the Zarn. He kept his eyes sharp, his senses heightened. The Zarn had grown more cunning with each mission, and their influence in the future was likely more sophisticated than in the past. As Arthur approached the administrative hub, he felt a strange unease creeping in. Something was different this time. The colony's lead scientist, Dr. Ilara Kai, was renowned for her advancements in terraforming technology. If the Zarn had infiltrated anyone, it would likely be her. She held the future of Mars in her hands, and a single wrong decision could unravel decades of progress. Arthur moved with purpose, blending in with the colony's personnel. He made his way to Dr. Kai's office, the sense of urgency growing. As he approached, the doors slid open, and there she was, Dr. Elara Kai, standing at her desk, reviewing data on a holographic display. But something felt off. Her movements were too precise, her demeanor too controlled. Arthur's instincts screamed at him, this wasn't Dr. Kai. This was a Zarn operative, disguised to manipulate the colony from within. Without hesitation, Arthur stepped forward, confronting the figure. The Zarn's eyes flickered, a brief moment of recognition passing between them. But it was too late. Arthur acted swiftly, deactivating the disguise device hidden on the operative's person. The illusion fell away, revealing the Zarn's true form, tall, slender, with translucent skin and piercing violet eyes. The Zarn hissed, preparing to strike, but Arthur was ready. A quick, calculated strike disabled the alien, rendering it incapacitated. With the immediate threat neutralized, Arthur accessed the holographic display. The data revealed the Zarn's plan, a series of decisions, carefully crafted to destabilize the colony's infrastructure, leading to mass chaos and the eventual abandonment of Mars. Arthur quickly worked to undo the damage, sending encrypted messages to the colony's true leaders, exposing the Zarn's plot. The colony was saved, for now, but Arthur knew this was only the beginning. The future was vast, and the Zarn's reach extended farther than he had ever imagined. As the Martian sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the red landscape, Arthur activated his wrist device once more. The familiar hum of time bending around him filled his senses as he prepared for his next mission. There was always another threat, another battle to fight, and as long as time needed protecting, Arthur would be there.